Okay, guys, we're continuing our book reading to Leon on persuasion vocabulary. I created my own vocabulary about persuasion. During the election on top of some vocabulary from the field of cognitive science, I'll explore all of the concepts listed here in more detail later. The alphabetized list is provided as a guide in case you later want to refresh your memory. Anchor is a thought that influences people toward a persuader's preferred outcome. For example, a big opening demand is a negotiation from a mental anchor that will bias negotiations toward that high offer. So a big opening demand in a negotiation will form a mental anchor that will bias negotiations toward that high offer. Like on Shark Tank, I think. Cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance is a condition of mind in which evidence conflicts with a person's worldview to such a degree that the person spontaneously generates a hallucination to rationalize the incongruity. Confirmation bias. Confirmation bias is the human tendency to irrationally believe new information supports your existing worldview even when it doesn't. I use the word filter to describe the way people frame their observations of reality. The key idea behind a filter is that it does not necessarily give its user an accurate view of reality. The human brain is not capable of comprehending truth at a deep level. Godzilla. Godzilla was my nickname for one of the most powerful persuaders in the world. You'll find out more about Godzilla later. The high ground maneuver. The high ground maneuver is a persuasion method that involves elevating a debate from the details on which people disagree to a higher concept on which everyone agrees. Linguistics killshot. A linguistics killshot is a nickname or short set of words so persuasive that it can end an argument or create a specific outcome. Master persuader. A master persuader is one who has such mastery of the tools of persuasion that he or she can change the world. Master persuaders are rare. Moist robot. Moist robot is my framing of a human being as programmable. If you provide the right inputs, you get the right outputs. Mole, the mole. In the context of this book, the mole is an imagined traitorous helper for the Clinton campaign who intentionally made all the wrong choices in terms of persuasion. Pacing and leading. Pacing involves matching the person you plan to persuade in as many ways as possible, including the way the person thinks, speaks, breathes, and moves. Pacing builds trust because people see you as being the same as them. After pacing, a persuader can then lead and the subject will be comfortable following. A persuasion stack is a collection of persuasive related skills that work well together. Second dimension. The second dimension describes the most common view of reality, the one in which we believe facts and logic are important to our decisions. This view says humans are reasonable 90% of the time. But every now and then we go a little bit crazy. Setting the table. Setting the table refers to managing an opponent's first impressions before negotiations begin. Tells. I borrowed this term from the poker. When you play a poker game. In a poker context, it means that a player is giving off a signal, a tell about how good cards are. In the context of persuasion, a tell is a signal that someone has been persuaded, but I also use the word generically to indicate any kind of signal. Thinking past the sale. Thinking past the sale is a persuasion technique in which a subject is prompted to imagine what happens after a decision has been made, to bias the person toward making the decision. Third act. In movie terms, the third act is the point in the story in which the hero's situation looks most dire. I use this terminology to describe any situation in which reality is likely to follow a traditional movie form. I also think of Hamilton. The third act, you would think, oh my gosh, for him. Third dimension. The third dimension is where trained persuaders operate. This worldview says humans are irrational 90% of the time. The only exceptions are when decisions have no emotional context. Two movies on one screen. Two movies on one screen is how I describe the phenomenon in which observers can see the same information and interpret it as supporting two entirely different movies. Please refer back to this list if you want to refresh your memory of a concept. So that's the end of part 1. Next we'll go to part 2. So that was page 30. So we'll start on part 2 next time. Like, subscribe, comment.